Hi there. So, one of the most common retirement questions out there is how much net worth do I need to retire? And I get why people ask it. It's simple, it's clean, it gives you one nice big number to shoot for. But here's the problem: net worth by itself is one of the most misleading numbers in retirement. In fact, two people can have the exact same net worth and be in completely different retirement situations. One can be in great shape, the other can be sitting on a pile of assets, still stressing about money, still vulnerable to taxes, healthcare costs, or a bad stretch in the market. So, in this video, I want to talk about the retirement number that matters more than net worth. Because once you understand this number, retirement starts making a whole lot more sense. And just as important, you stop obsessing over whether your net worth sounds impressive at a dinner party, which, let's be honest, is not actually a retirement strategy. The number that matters more than net worth is this: how much your portfolio needs to support each year. That's the number, not your total net worth, not your house's estimated selling price on Redfin, not your IRA balance, not the number you can put in a thumbnail with a shocked face next to it. What matters is how much of your life your money actually has to fund every year. Because retirement is not won by having the biggest pile. It's won by having a plan where the pile can actually carry the load. Let me show you what I mean. And just so we're clear, these are intentionally very simple examples. I'm not trying to build out a full retirement plan here in this one video. I'm not modeling every tax deal or out-of-pocket medical costs beyond the insurance premiums. I'm just simplifying the math enough to show you why net worth by itself can be misleading. And to keep the comparison apples to apples, let's assume both households are low healthcare utilization couples choosing bronze marketplace plans for the lower monthly premiums. Let's say we have two households then. Household number one has a net worth of $2 million. That sounds great, right? But let's look a little closer. Maybe 900,000 of that is tied up in the house. Maybe another 900,000 is in traditional IRA and 401k accounts. Then maybe they've got 100,000 in cash and 100,000 in a brokerage account. So yes, they have a $2 million net worth, but only about 1.1 million of that is really available to help fund retirement. And most of that sits in pre-tax accounts, which limits their tax flexibility. Now let's say they want to retire at 60. They want to spend 90,000 a year. On top of that, they need to buy their own health insurance before Medicare. And because most of their retirement income is going to come from pre-tax withdrawals, those withdrawals count as ordinary income and also count towards their modified adjusted gross income, or MAGI, for Affordable Care Act purposes. So if this is a household of two in the continental US, 84,600 is the exact 400% federal poverty level line, or FPL, for 2026 marketplace coverage. And if their pre-tax withdrawals push them above that line, they can lose premium help and end up paying full price for the marketplace premiums. So let's say health insurance costs them another $20,000 per year. Then let's say taxes add another $8,000 or so. Now the real number the portfolio may need to support is more like $115,000 to $120,000 a year. And that's where the problem becomes obvious. They do not really have a $2 million retirement engine. They have about 1.1 million outside the house, and most of that is in pre-tax accounts. So asking that smaller, less flexible pool of money to support $115,000 to $120,000 a year is extremely aggressive for a 30 or longer retirement. In other words, this is not a strong plan just because the net worth starts with a 2. This household may look wealthy on paper, but the retirement plan itself is not realistic and the couple is not in a good position to retire. Now let's compare that to household number 2. They have a net worth of 1.5 million, so on paper that looks less wealthy. But maybe their situation is structured much better for retirement. Let's say they've got a $300,000 house, 500,000 in a taxable brokerage account, 350,000 in traditional retirement accounts, 250,000 in Roth accounts, and 100,000 in cash. So they have less total net worth, yes, but they have more flexibility in the places that matter. Now, let's say this household also wants to retire at 60, and let's say they only want to spend $70,000 a year. Maybe because they can control MAGI better, they stay under 400% of the FPL level line and qualify for subsidies. So their net health insurance premium on a bronze plan could be several $1,000s less a year instead of household number one, our first example. Maybe their taxes are also lower because they can pull from taxable Roth and traditional accounts in a more efficient mix. So instead of needing the portfolio to support something like 115 to 120,000 a year, maybe they only need about 75 to 80. That's a massive difference. So even though their net worth is lower, they actually have a larger pool of usable money, better tax flexibility, and a much lighter annual load on the portfolio. So even though household number two has a lower net worth, their retirement plan may actually be safer. Why? Because they want less from the portfolio, because more of their money is accessible and flexible, because they have more control over their taxable income, and because their plan puts less pressure on their investments during the early retirement years. That's why net worth is not the best retirement number. It just tells you how much you own. It does not tell you how well your retirement plan will work. And that brings us back to the number that matters more, your portfolio support number. That's how much your investments need to provide each year to fund your lifestyle. That's the number you should care a lot more about than net worth, because that number gets us much closer to the real question, not how rich am I on paper, but can my money actually support the life I want to live? Here's the simple version of how I think about it. Take your real annual spending, add in your health insurance costs, especially if you're retiring before 65, add in taxes, then subtract any reliable income sources that are not coming from your portfolio. What's left is the amount your portfolio has to support. That's your number. That's the load your investment has to carry. And once you know that, you can start making much better decisions. And that is exactly what the two households we just walked through showed us. The issue was not just their net worth. The issue was how much their portfolio needed to support, how flexible their accounts were, and how much pressure they were putting on the plan in those early retirement years. And that is why I say this number matters more than net worth, because this number changes how safe your plan really is. It changes how exposed you are to sequence of returns risk. It changes how much flexibility you have. It changes whether you're likely to sleep well at night or stare at the ceiling at 2 a.m. wondering if you retired too soon. And let's be honest, nobody retires early because they want more ceiling staring. Now, there are a few reasons net worth can really fool people. First, not all net worth is equally spendable. Your house may be part of your net worth. And yes, it absolutely counts towards your net worth, but unless you plan to sell it, downsize, rent part of it out, or borrow against it, it may not be doing much to fund your retirement life. Your home can be a very valuable asset. It can also be a very expensive place to store your retirement confidence. Second, taxes matter. A dollar in a brokerage account is not the same as a dollar in a traditional IRA. A dollar in a Roth is not the same as either one of those. Where your money lives changes how much of it is actually usable. Two people can each have $1 million invested, but if one person has more tax flexibility and the other person is trapped mostly in pre-tax accounts, those are not the same retirement situations, not even close. Third, early retirement has bridge years. This is a big one. If you retire before 65, your money is not just supporting your life, it's supporting the years before Medicare and before Social Security if you retire before 62. Those early years are often the most fragile years of the whole plan, and the support number during those years matters a lot. Fourth, spending is the engine behind all of this. The market matters, taxes matter, healthcare matters, but spending is still the main character. You can't really know whether your plan works unless you know what your actual spending is. And I mean actual spending, not the version where people say, oh, well, probably will live on about 60,000 because they assume retirement spending automatically drops once they stop working. A lot of times, especially in those early go-go years, it doesn't. Take it from me as an early retiree myself. You've got more time for travel, more time for hobbies, more time for eating out, more time for home projects, and sometimes more healthcare spending too. So if you're using a nice sounding guess instead of what you're actually likely to spend, your retirement math can get off track fast. Your retirement plan deserves better math than just wishful thinking. So if net worth is not the best retirement number, what should you actually focus on? I would focus on 5 things. Number one, your real annual spending. That's the foundation. If that number is off, everything built on top of it gets shaky fast. Number two, your health insurance number. If you're retiring before 65, this is not some tiny side deal. This can be one of the biggest line items in the plan, especially if your income is high enough to reduce or eliminate Affordable Care Act subsidies. Number three, your tax number. Not just what tax bracket you're in today, but how taxable your withdrawals are going to be and how much control you actually have. Number four, your bridge number. How much does your portfolio have to cover before Medicare, before Social Security, or before any other reliable income kicks in? And number five, the amount your portfolio needs to cover each year. How much does the portfolio need to do each year in each phase of retirement? That is the number I want front and center because that is the number that connects your spending to your assets in the real world. And by the way, if this 5-number framework sounds familiar, I actually did a full video on it that I'll link to in the description, and I also built a tool to help you work through it yourself. It's available in my Patreon tools library, and the link is in the description. You can join Patreon for free and access some freebies there too, including my 12-step early retirement planning checklist, my ebook ACA Premium Shock Fix, and my ACA MAGI Excel template estimator. And if you want more help, there are paid membership tiers too. One gives you access to additional tools I've created, including the tool I created to help you do the math to figure out the 5 numbers I just mentioned. Another adds ad-free access to all of my podcast episodes, plus early access to new ones before they're released to the public. And the top tier lets you ask me your retirement questions directly. So when someone asks, how much net worth do I need to retire? My honest answer is, usually it depends. I know, very dramatic, very satisfying, right? But it's true because everybody's situation is different. And the better question is not what net worth do I need? The better question is, what does my portfolio need to support and for how long? That's where the real answer lives. For some people, a lower net worth with low spending, good tax flexibility, and a manageable annual burden on the portfolio can absolutely work. For other people, a much larger net worth still may not feel like enough because the annual burden on the portfolio is high, rigid, and exposed. Net worth is really just a snapshot. Retirement is a cash flow problem over time. It's a support problem. It's a flexibility problem. It's a sequence risk problem. And once you look at it that way, you start asking much better questions. You stop saying, do I have enough? And you start saying, how much do I really spend? What years are the most expensive? How much of my portfolio do I need before 65? How much drops off after Medicare or Social Security starts? How tax efficient are my withdrawals? How flexible is my plan if the market has a rough first few years? Those are the kinds of questions that lead to better retirement decisions. So if you take nothing else away from this video, take this. Net worth matters. I'm not saying it doesn't. It does, but it is not the number that tells you whether your retirement plan actually works. The number that matters more is how much your portfolio needs to support, because that number determines whether your money can carry your lifestyle. And in retirement, that's the whole game. If this video was helpful, let me know in the comments what number you think people focus on too much in retirement. Thank you so much for watching. Take care. And until next time, this is Mike Upland, early retiree at age 55 in 2024. Take care and make the most of today.